All right, it's that time again. So Florida Theater, they have a special series, Untold Stories. Once again, Barbara is with us, and she is the director of Untold Stories, and special guest, Ari Pinto. Welcome back to River City Live. Barbara, let's start with you. So if you can, give the viewers out there a recap of what this is all about, and we'll talk about the process too as well.
Okay. So we're in our second season. Our first season consisted of 4 evenings that are themed. So the idea of Untold Stories is to find Jacksonville storytellers who connect with people, places, and have events and moments that sort of change their life. So the theme for the next Untold Stories is Winds of Change. And so I'm still in the process of casting. I do have 5 storytellers, but the idea is to, the process is to go deep. People have an event, but I start to ask questions and they start making connections, and it's a 2-month process.
One of the things I want to talk about too, the selection. So obviously you go out and you find, people that have stories that fit that format that you talked about. But even that itself is just the beginning, because you have to help sculpt the message and the story.
Right.
So I would imagine that's a pretty grueling process to do.
So I wouldn't say grueling, because I'm fascinated, but sometimes it makes me a little bit like, oh my God, like I know the story's sitting there, but it's like pulling it out, like if the person's gonna be really ready and free to tell it.
Sure.
Because I'm not worried about professional storytellers. It's just anybody, does have a story, and you have to have a certain charisma and charm, but and confidence. It's a lot about confidence.
Well, Ari has all those, Ari
Yes.
Pinto, so you will be one of the storytellers. So let's talk a little bit about what you'll be exploring and talking about.
So my story focuses on a particular moment of my past, and it weaves in the present and the future. A future that is going to take place in Mayport, one that has taken place in Mayport in my past with my grandparents being from there, and a present, one where I currently work at 904 Happy Hour, and I also work as an artist out of Mayport in my studio. So these worlds are all going to come together in the future, and I'll be telling a story of my past that will illuminate this, and I'm really excited to have Barbara guide me through this process.
And what has that process been like so far? Because I said grueling, Barbara's like, it's not.
No, for me,
now I'm going to ask you, exactly.
For me, it's been grueling. Picture me on the stage.
I'm just going to slide her out of here for a second. We'll have a one-on-one.
Picture me on the stage, an audience of nobody, and me freaking out at that audience of nobody. That's the process so far. I've been a little nervous, but we've been slowly working through it, and Barbara's an awesome coach. She's made me feel super comfy, and
we have plenty of time.
We have plenty of time, and also my story's already developed in the one session we've done. So.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you too. Did you have a story to tell, or not necessarily?
I think everyone has a story to tell, and including myself, I do too. And I'm taking this as an opportunity, since Barbara approached me, to tell that story. I think everyone views their own life story as interesting and unique, and I find that to be the truth about my story.
That's a great way to look at it. What is so far, and I know we're still in the process, what is like the one thing already that you've taken away from this experience that you're like, oh wow, I'm really glad I'm doing this?
That just as much as you think you're good at doing something, there can always be something or someone can outprove that your notion of yourself and what you think you're good at is not true. I don't really know how to tell a genuine story when I'm asked to. I can tell stories when I'm not asked to. So that's why I think that it's a really interesting thing, like, hey, go up and tell a story on stage. I'm like, but if I just had to tell somebody a story, no problem.
And
it
that's
comes out like that.
Part of the craft that you've been talking about,
Right.
not necessarily professional storytellers, keeping it organic, keeping it in a way that's real communication, because that's how you connect with the audience.
That's what I train people to do, is giving voice to their voice and making yourself comfortable in your own skin. Because the people that are successful communicators have figured out, I'm going to talk to you and make eye contact with you, or I could talk to 100,000 people.
Sure.
Right? And you get used to it, and you have fun with it, because you want people to receive your story. So if you're passionate, like, you have to have the fire in the belly.
Yeah.
You have to have a message that you want to tell, and focus on the message and not on your ego, like how I'm feeling.
Right, right. No, that makes a lot of sense. That's a really good note. Barbara, if people want to learn more, what's the best route? How do they get involved with this or see a show?
Well, the next show is March 30th, Winds of Change, and you can go on the Florida Theater website. They've done a great job of explaining what the series is. They have all the bios of the storytellers past. They have great promo pieces that you could check out and look at from the past and hear clips. And yeah, and my Babs Lab, I do monthly story slams. Come to a story slam and see what it's like. People getting up and telling stories.
That is awesome. Well, thank you both so much for coming out here and talking about it. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stick around, more to come right after this.